Hello, I'm Joshua Gillespie, and I said it 3 times, so why not say it a fourth? Welcome back to Sonic Mug. Now today, we're going to be looking at...
Mr. Gillespie,
Yes?
I hear that you don't have Sonic CD.
Yeah, I don't, but
Well,
I
then
have a
it's your
solution.
lucky day, because I have it right here.
No, that's really not necessary.
There you go.
Oh, well, thank you.
My job here is done.
How did he get in my house? Anyway, yeah, we're talking about Sonic CD today. I don't have a Sega CD, though, so I guess I really don't need this. Thankfully, though, this game has been ported to the Xbox Live Arcade and the PlayStation Network, so let's talk about it.
Before we talk about the game itself, let's talk a little history. The full title of this game is actually Sonic the Hedgehog CD, but because of society wanting to shorten everything, it's more commonly referred to as just Sonic CD. Now, this game was released in 1993, 1 year before Sonic 3, and it was released for Sega's add-on to the Genesis called the Sega CD, which utilized disc-based gaming, hence the name. Now, even though the add-on failed, one of the few glimmering games from it was Sonic CD. So now, let's talk about it. Before we delve into the gameplay, let's talk about the beginning of the game. It starts out with a full motion video of Sonic being awesome. Simple as that, Sonic being awesome. Oddly enough, this is some of the best Sonic animation I've ever seen. The song that's playing is called Sonic Boom. This song has been used in Super Smash Bros. Brawl on the Green Hill Zone stage, and it's also been covered by the band Crush 40. Some of the lyrics to the song coincide with what happens in the game, and the movie helps set up the story. Speaking of which, the story goes like this. Dr. Robotnik takes over a place called Little Planet so he can find these things called the Time Stones, which will allow him to manipulate time. As soon as he gets there, he starts converting it into a fortress, but thankfully, Sonic arrives just in time to stop him. This game added a lot to the Sonic series, such as being able to go into different time zones, a new standing dash called the Super Peel-Out, and 2 new characters, Amy Rose and Metal Sonic. One thing that made it different though was unlike Sonic 2, you could only play as Sonic. There was no Tails anywhere. Another difference to this game is the terminology used. Instead of levels, we have rounds, and instead of acts, we have zones. As for these rounds, there are 7 of them with 3 zones each. I'm not going to count the different time variants for each zone because it just is the same level layout, just with different style to them, but I will show the past and present versions of them. These rounds are Palm Tree Panic, Collision Chaos, Tidal Tempest, Quartz Quadrant, Wacky Workbench, Stardust Symphony, and finally, Metallic Madness. At the end of my last episode, I said that this is the most confusing Sonic game, and a few people didn't understand what I meant, so let me explain. Well, the level layout is quite crazy first of all, but that's not why I said this game was confusing. The reason I said that is the gameplay itself. As I've said before, this game is about time travel. The way you travel through time is by speeding through future and past posts. Once you gain enough speed, you get sent to that time zone. Only problem is that it's difficult to gain and maintain that speed for long enough due to the level's layouts. This isn't much of a problem though, because this has very little effect on the ending. Right now, let's talk about the music. I already talked about Sonic Boom, but for the levels, this music is very unique and each track goes perfectly with its level. The different time zones even have their own variation of the music. It goes from this nice calming sound to an upbeat, catchy techno sound. I enjoy every tune from this game, except for one that's just a bit too creepy, and that's the boss music. It sounds eerie, kind of like something you'd hear from a Metroid game, but once you hear that laugh, as a kid, that would haunt my dreams. Even now it's still creepy, just out of place. But other than that, this music is really special. It's not anything that you'll find yourself humming, well, other than Sonic Boom, but it really does enhance the experience, which is what all great video game music does. Before we talk about the ending, let's talk about just a few more things, such as the special stages. These special stages have the same basic objective as the other ones, to complete the goal and collect your reward. This time it's the time stones. These stages have a 3D look to them, but it looks closer to F-Zero on the Super Nintendo. The next thing we'll talk about are the main villains to the game. Other than Robotnik, this time we're introduced to Metal Sonic. But Sonic doesn't battle Metal in the traditional boss battle. Instead, it's a race. This level is often seen as one of, if not the, toughest levels in the game, which is what we're talking about next, the difficulty. This is another reason why this game could be seen as confusing. There are some boss battles that can confuse the player, and it can take some time before they figure out what to do. These bosses are certainly unique, but they can get frustrating. Another thing about the difficulty is that there are a lot of extra lives to be found, making this game similar to Sonic 2. It's difficult, but it's also forgiving. Now let's talk about what might be the most important, but also the most confusing part of this game, the ending. Or shall I say, endings, because this has two. And this is where those time stones come into play. Depending on if you collect every one of them, you're treated to one of two endings. The first one I'm going to talk about is the bad ending. Eggman still has control over Little Planet, and he escapes with the 7th time stone. But Sonic throws a boulder at him, and it causes the Eggmobile to explode, and the whereabouts of the 7th time stone to be unknown. Now the good ending is that Little Planet is saved, and Sonic throws a boulder at Robotnik, causing the Eggmobile to explode.
So no matter if you collect the time stones or not, the ending will always be,
I threw a rock at him!
wonderful.
It's not that this ending is terrible, it's fine, it's just, it doesn't really entice the player to want to collect the time stones, seeing as no matter what you do, Sonic still wins. If it had had more of an impact, like the endings to Knuckles Chaotix, then maybe it would have been better. So who is Sonic the Hedgehog CD for? Well, even though throughout this review I've said that this game can be confusing, that doesn't keep it from being a great game. The design is very fun to look at, especially with the different time zones. It's a shame that this had to be put on a Go Nowhere add-on like the Sega CD, but it's also good because it was one of the few games that made the add-on worth owning. Thankfully, it's been ported to different Sonic collections, and like I said, it's been recently ported to the Xbox Live Arcade and the PlayStation Network. Many people consider this to be the greatest Sonic game of all time. While it's not to me, I can see why people would say that. It's a big game and definitely a step up from Sonic 2. This would also be, without a doubt, one of the fastest Sonic games. The longest time it ever took me to finish a level was about 2.5 minutes, even with those confusing boss battles, and I finished it in about an hour. The difficulty can get a bit annoying, but it never makes you want to stop playing. Is this the greatest Sonic game ever? Well, I think that's just up to someone's opinion. My opinion being that this is a fantastic Sonic game that's fun to go through over and over. I give it an 8 out of 10. I know that's my average review for a Sonic game, but that just means they've all been great games. So what do I think of this game? Well, I had always wanted to play this game as a kid, because it was included with my Sonic collection for the PC. Unfortunately though, my computers could never play it. I had heard a lot about it, and I was really excited when it was released on the Xbox Live Arcade, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that it lived up to all the praise I had heard for it. I was a bit disappointed with its length, but it was fun to go through and play several times again. Do I think it's the best Sonic game ever? No, but it's certainly on my top 5. This game introduced important characters to the Sonic franchise, much like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. Overall, I think this is a fantastic game, and definitely one people should check out.
So that's my review of Sonic CD. I hope you enjoy it.
SB, there seems to be a package here for you.
Oh, well, I wasn't expecting anything, but, Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What's the matter?